Okay. Hi everyone. Welcome to our next video. Today we're going to be talking about fornication, adultery, and sex biblically. Like, what is it? How does it work? Like, is it inherently a bad thing to have sex? And I would say no. But obviously, as long as you are married, right? I mean that's kind of like the main point. And it's gonna be kind of like the theme of this video. It's gonna be a lot more of like a practical one. But first thing I wanted to start off with is that uniquely, it's actually the sin or a sin that you are told to flee or run from, or we can see in First Corinthians 6:18. Um, actually, well, I guess we yeah. So title of the little section is flee sexual immorality, but I guess we could just read the whole thing. I only had verse 18, but we can just read the whole thing. All things are lawful for me, but not all things are profitable. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be mastered by anything. Food is for the stomach, and the stomach is for food, but God will do away with both of them. Yet the body is not for sexual immorality, but for the Lord, and the Lord is for the body. Now God has not only raised the Lord, but will also raise us up through his power, the resurrection. Do you not know that your bodies are members of Christ? Shall I then take away the members of Christ and make them members of a prostitute? May it never be. Or do you not know that the one who joins himself to a prostitute is one body with her, which is a callback to Genesis, where they are one flesh. For he says, the two shall become one flesh, which is oops, literally right here. But the one who joins himself to the Lord is one spirit with him. Flee sexual immorality. Every other sin that a man commits is outside the body, but the sexually immoral man sins against his own body. Or do you not know that your body is a sanctuary of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have from God, and that you are not your own? For you were bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your body. So yeah, it's kind of like the first part that this is kind of like the one that is talked about more as fleeing that sets in, and specifically like Paul says that the sexual immoral man sins against his own body and the rest are outside the body. So it is a unique sin in that sense. So like it is very important that we um treasure our bodies for the Lord, right? I mean, it is very important. And it's always one that's called out a lot more in the Bible, like, for the in Revelation, it brings up like the sexually immoral, like the liars, the murderers, the adulterers. Sexually immoral is one of them. And yeah, it's called out a lot for a good reason because it is a sin within the body, and also um that our body is a sanctuary of the Holy Spirit who is in us. So we have to treasure it, right? I mean, our bodies are temples, so we have to cherish it in said way because we were bought with a price. Therefore, glorify God in our bodies. So yeah, then we could look at Second Timothy 2:22, where it says, now flee from youthful lust and pursue righteousness, faith, love, and peace, and those who call on the Lord from a pure heart, but refuse foolish and ignorant speculations, knowing that they produce quarrels. So yeah. Flee from youthful lust and pursue righteousness. And of course, youthful lust isn't just when it comes to sex. It includes like all kinds of things like, lust could include any type of sin that you're tempted by, like it's described in James 1. So, yeah. Um Common theme, flee, because it is one, it's more of like a unique sin in the sense that like we went over. It is in the body, but also in the fact that it's a lot more tempting to fall into, especially actually as a whole. It's a lot more tempting to fall into because it feels good for the flesh, right? That's kind of like the main theme over and over, that like anything that feels good to the flesh is usually not exactly a great thing, but sex is one of those things where like people actually come together for it. So like how they become one flesh, like Paul said. So now we could look at First Corinthians 7:2, where we're actually going to see about what it says about it, what about sex and fornication specifically. Yeah. And then yeah, we could just look at First Corinthians 7:2. But because of sexual immoralities, each man is to have his own wife, and each woman is to have her own husband. The husband must fulfill his duty to the wife, and likewise also the wife to the husband. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And likewise, also the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. Stop depriving one another, except by agreement for a time, so that you may devote yourselves to prayer and come together again, so that Satan will not tempt you because of your lack of self-control. But I say this as a concession, not as a command. Yeah, I wish that all men were even as myself am, which is wishing that everyone was single, but so that we're all able to minister. But it's just a wish. It's a concession. It's not a command. But anyways, um. Yeah, it is good for man to not touch a woman, but because of sexual immoralities, each man has to have his own wife. So yeah, I mean the lusts of men and women, they're everywhere, right? In every sense, not just when it comes to sexual immorality, fornication, or sex just outside of marriage. Yeah, because that's all sexual immorality is. It's just sex outside of marriage. So, yeah, because of that, each man has to have his own wife, and yeah, the wife doesn't have authority over her own body, but the husband does. And also, for all the guys out here, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but the wife does. So, um, yeah, it's just not up to you. It's not really up to you or up for you. It's up to the wife, and for the women, if you are watching, it is also not up to you. It is up to your husband later on, right? If you're not married yet. If you are married, then it's up to him. But yeah, then we can move on to First Thessalonians 4, 3 to 5, where it says, "For this is the will of God, your sanctification, that you abstain from sexual immorality, that each of you know how to possess his own vessel in sanctification and honor, not in lustful passion, like the Gentiles who do not know God, and that no other man transgress and defraud his brother in the matter, because the Lord is the avenger in all these things, just as we have told you before and solemnly warned you." And for God did not call us to impurity. So, yeah. So the process of sanctification includes abstaining from fornication or sexual immorality. Um, and it is called impure, right? I mean, all sin is impure, but this is one of those where it's more because of an inward sin. It is a lot more impure, or used a lot more specifically as impure. Yeah. Yeah, we should all know how to possess our own vessels in sanctification and honor, not in lustful passion like the Gentiles, just unbelievers who do not know God. So yeah, we should not be getting in these lustful passions. Again, this is another temptation that we have that we need to abstain from. But specifically in this video, we're talking about sexual immorality, right? So, yeah, this is one of those things where it's like it's a lot easier said than done, because I understand, like, it's very hard for people to kind of abstain, especially from this like kind of culture we have now, especially out here in the West. Culture for like hookup culture and like all that, it's very common, right? And everyone's kind of doing everybody. Like it's crazy out here. But yeah, it's very common in this day and age, and it is very hard to not be involved in these acts, not be in these lustful passions, to abstain from sexual immorality is very difficult. But again, we do not walk according to the world. We walk by faith and not by sight, right? So yeah, then we can move on to Hebrews 13:4, where it says, "Marriage is to be held in honor among all, and the marriage bed is to be undefiled, for the sexually immoral and adulterers God will judge. Make sure that your way of life is free from the love of money, being content with what you have, for he himself has said, I will never desert you, nor will I ever forsake you." So humbleness down here, and up here, starting in verse 4 because it's different. Marriage is to be held, the marriage bed is to be undefiled. So again, no adultery and no fornication either, especially when you're married. That kind of thing is like like, for example, what does the Bible say to do to adulterers in the Old Testament? That's the result. Is to be put to death. Again, Old Testament laws were a lot not even in a sense yes, harsher, but at the same time it's like, if you like, again, us even in the faith, I do believe that we can survive the Old Testament laws if we truly are believers. But yeah, adulterers are to be put to death, and according to the Old Testament law, and Jesus is the Old Testament God, so again, it's still applicable. It's still applicable, but we don't do it. But it's still applicable today. Um, that adulterers be put to death. Like if the government did that, there'd be no problem with that. But yeah, that's why the marriage bed is to be undefiled. It shouldn't be involving anyone else, and it shouldn't be yeah, actually yeah, just that involving anybody else. It shouldn't be involving other people. It should be between one man and one woman. That's what the Bible says that marriage is between. And we're not meant to have, multiple marriages either. There's not nowhere in the Bible does it say to do that. Um, but yeah, for the sexually immoral and adulterers, God will judge. So even then, like if you want to be like, oh, the Old Testament law doesn't matter anymore, well, God will still judge those people. So yeah, very important that we kind of stay away from it, like it says to abstain and to flee, right? It's the most practical thing you can do. You can flee from those kind of things. And yeah, if next we can look at Ephesians 5:3. Um, but sexual immorality or any impurity or greed must not even be named among you, as is proper among saints. Saints are living people, holy ones, living people, not just dead people. But yeah, involved with impurity again or greed must not even be named among you, so it should not be a part of us, a part of our character, our traits. So yeah, it's very very important that this is one of those things that we also abstain from. It's not kind of something we could just like kind of do in like a phase and then be like, okay, let me get right with God and then just do our own thing. Like, no, just abstain from it as a whole, right? It's something we should stay far and away from. So yeah, then we could look at Colossians 5:3, where it says, set your mind on the, well, we can start verse 2. Set your mind on the things above, not on the things on earth, for you died, and your life has been hidden with Christ in God. When Christ, who is our life, is manifested, then you will also be manifested with him in glory. Therefore, consider the members of your earthly body as dead to sexual immorality, impurity, passion, evil desire, and greed, which is idolatry. On account of these things, the wrath of God is coming upon the sons of disobedience, and in them you also once walked when you were living in them. But now you also lay them all aside, wrath, anger, malice, slander, and abusive speech from your mouth. And yeah, it keeps going. So yeah, consider the members of your body, so consider the parts of your body as dead to sexual immorality, all these things, which is idolatry. So again, they should be dead to us, right? Like sexual immorality should be dead to us, impurity should be dead to us, those kind of passions should be dead to us, evil desires should be dead to us, and greed, which should be dead to us, and all those things are idolatry, but we should also be dead to idolatry as well. So yeah, then we could look at Revelation 21:8. I think this is the one I was talking about earlier. I think I just brought it up by accident. Yeah, but for the cowardly and the unbelieving and abominable and murderers and sexually immoral persons and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars, their part will be in the lake that burns with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. So yeah, sexually immoral persons is one of them. It's not something you can kind of like get away with. No, uh, no sin you can just get away from. But this one specifically, you just cannot at all because it's referenced a lot more than other sins. So yeah. Then we can look at adultery that it's not just for when you're married, it could also be when you are not married. We can look at Exodus 20:14, which is the commandment that you shall not commit adultery. So yes, this is one of the Ten Commandments. We should be still doing this today. It's not something just because it's an Old Testament law means we need to just write it off. Of course not. Um, so yeah, then we could look at Matthew 5:27 to 28, which is kind of like the nitty-gritty of it. Okay. Jesus was the one talking here in verse 27. He says, "You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery,' which is what we just looked at. But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart. And then, but if your right eye causes you to stumble, and yeah, cut it off. Okay, yeah. Anyways, yeah, this part specifically, I think is very, very important because a lot of people think of adultery as like, oh, like only when you are married, right? Well, not exactly, because if God knows you're gonna be married, because not everyone's meant to be married, but if God knows you are gonna be married, then you shouldn't be going after other women in the meantime, right? Because you're already set to be one flesh with that woman. So even before, you still should not be doing any of those things, which is why Jesus said that everyone who looks at a woman to lust for her has already committed adultery with her in his heart because you already have that kind of future spouse waiting for you because it's not obviously it's set in stone that it will happen because it is whether you want to say it's God's foreknowledge or predestination one way or another, he knows you will get married. And if he knows, then you two are already one flesh, meaning you should not be doing anything before, right? But if you look at any woman or man to lust for them, you have already committed adultery in your heart because you already meant to be with that one person and you're lusting for someone else. That is adultery still. It's not just having sex with someone outside of your marriage when you're already married. No, it's not. Um, it's more to it, like this says. So yeah, then we could look at Proverbs 6:32. This is more about like um yeah, same thing. The one who commits adultery with a woman is lacking a heart of wisdom. He who would destroy his soul does it. So yeah. Um anyone who does it is lacking a heart of wisdom. It's kind of self-explanatory, like um, win certain games, win certain prizes. You win the game of adultery, you win the destruction of your soul. I mean, it's just the reward you're gonna get, the destruction of your soul for doing these things. Obviously, there is repentance and forgiveness and all that, but I'm saying like in a general sense, in a practical sense, he who would destroy his soul is the one that commits adultery and likes to do it. But yeah. Then we can look at Matthew 5 again, when we can look at verse 31 to 32. Yeah. Now it was said, whoever sends his wife away, let him give her a certificate of divorce. But I say to you that everyone who divorces his wife, except for the reason of sexual immorality, makes her commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. There's a lot more that goes into the divorce argument, but for now we'll just say but I say to you that everyone who divorces his wife except for the reason of sexual immorality makes her commit adultery. So if you divorce for money reasons, you're sick and tired of them, you hate the way they look now, what other divorce reasons? Um, just leave it at that. Money, sick and tired of them, and hate the way they look. Any of those three, if you divorce them for any of those three reasons, you cause you cause her or him to commit adultery. And you yourself will also be committing adultery for that reason as well. And whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery because again, so there's your sign, people do not marry a divorced woman like a like I don't know. Well, I mean, you can understand, you can probably put it together. Yeah, just don't marry some old women who just freshly divorced. Do not do that because you are committing adultery and so are they. Um obviously if the spouse died, which is kind of like the one way you can remarry, then sure. But in the general sense, if you divorce for basically any other reason, because till death do us part, right? If you divorce for any other reason or if they're alone for any other reason than death, then do not marry them. I really encourage that you don't um marry a divorced woman as Matthew says, right? As Jesus said. So yeah. Last place we can look at would be Matthew 10:11 to 12, where it says, and he said to them, Jesus said, whoever divorces his wife and marries another woman commits adultery against her, and if she herself divorces her husband and marries another man, she is committing adultery. So again, it's just the same account, but in Mark's version. So yeah, whoever divorces a wife and marries another woman commits adultery against her. So even in this sense, like it doesn't include the sexual immorality part. But I would rather say like um you should stay you know through thick and thin, right? I mean that's what a marriage is, like through the highs and lows. So that's do you part, right? I mean that's how it should be, even through the mistakes. Obviously I'm not in a marriage, so I can't necessarily speak on like how your marriage should work. But in the same sense, I could just say, keep God in the center, glorify Him, and just do what He says. Like, I mean, that's for everybody, not just for married people. But it also applies to married people, and that includes in that marriage. Like, keep God at the center of it, just like how both of you should be keeping Him at the center of your lives, but also in the marriage, not just for your personal lives in the marriage. But yeah, through thick and thin, till death do you guys part, you guys should stay together under really any circumstance because there is a sense of forgiveness that needs to be in play. So yeah, like really for anything, for lying, for stealing from you, like really should be forgiving them for those things because again, that represents a godly character. But would a godly character do those things? Like the all the mean stuff in a marriage, shouldn't. But you know, maybe it does happen, and they truly are in the faith, and they still do it. Then you know, they can go to God about seeking forgiveness and seeing if it's meant for you guys to still stay together. Like, you know, it's a lot more when it comes to like actually being in a marriage. That's not really the point of this video, but yeah, you really should forgive your husband or wife almost through any circumstance. When it comes to sexual immorality, uh, it's a lot more nitty gritty. But yeah, in a general sense, God hates divorce. He really does. So it's not something that we should just be going on about like as like a regular thing. It's not good. Like in America, like it's like a higher divorce rate than not I don't know about ever before, but I know it's like super high. Or at least the last time I saw it was super high. Um Divorce rate in America in percent. 41% of first marriages are likely to end in divorce. Like, brother, that is insane. Like I'm telling you, that is way too high. Way too high. People do. I'm telling you, people divorce over like the smallest things. But anyways, yeah, we kind of went off topic at the end with marriage. But when it comes to sex specifically, it's perfectly fine and even good to have sex within marriage because you have to be fruitful and multiply. But of course, being fruitful comes first. Fruitful in the spirit, right? Being fruitful with God, and then you can multiply with your spouse. So yeah, sex in marriage is great, but when it comes to fornication and premarital sex and adultery, run, flee, get away, and we should not be involved, right? We shouldn't be. Realistically speaking, we shouldn't be. Of course, I understand that it is very, very difficult, but yeah. Anyways, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys did enjoy. I was planning to do the predestination video today, but I do not have the time right now. So I try to do that one as soon as I can. I love you guys. If you guys have any recommendations, please comment or questions or just regular comments. Yeah, God bless you all very, very much.